Hello and welcome to my first TouchDesigner tutorial. My name is Yehua, and today we are going to make this real-time hand tracking drawing system that I built with TouchDesigner and ComfyUI. So basically in this project, our hand gestures and movements are translated into a drawing input in TouchDesigner, and then it is sent to ComfyUI to get it interpreted by an image-to-image generation pipeline, so that the whole system is working together to create live and AI-driven visuals. Before we get into the technical setup, I want to talk a little bit about my inspiration behind this project. So I'm really inspired by this project called Untitled 5 by Camille Orderbeck. In their work, body itself becomes the drawing instrument and movement is translated into marks through a computational system. I really want to extend this idea into a contemporary workflow using AI. And so I thought, why not use ComfyUI to help me do that? So this is what I've done in my project. In this tutorial, instead of going through all the details in my networks, I would like to focus on explaining how the system is structured, how my data flows between TouchDesigner and ComfyUI, and how these tools work together to create a responsive drawing workflow. And so basically, my network can be divided into two parts. The first part here is the ComfyUI setup part, and the whole bunch of nodes here on the left is the one that I use to create a drawing system. So first, let's go into this ComfyUI setup. To do the ComfyUI setup, first we need to download a few things here. The first one here is, of course, the ComfyUI software. Go ahead to their website and download the software. And the second thing here is called TD ComfyUI Talks. We are going to use this to connect our TouchDesigner network to the ComfyUI network. The third thing here is called Model. The one that I use in my project is called AW Painting, but of course you can choose any model that you like. Also the LoRa. The one that I use in my project is called Watch Painting. I will put all this link in my description so you can go ahead and feel free to download it. So after downloading everything, go ahead and open the folder of your ComfyUI software and find this one folder called Models. And then in here, go ahead and open the checkpoints folder and then drag the model that you downloaded into this folder. And then go back, open the LoRa's folder, and then here drag the LoRa's that you just downloaded into this folder. So now we are basically finished the setup of the ComfyUI environment. And so we can go ahead and open the ComfyUI software and start creating our network. So in your ComfyUI, first we are going to click the Manager button and Custom Nodes Manager. Here we are going to search tooling. Go ahead and install the tooling nodes. And then once you're finished, go back and click Update All and then Restart to make sure that everything is loaded. After you're finished, close the window and then go ahead and copy this whole network in your own project. In here, I'm just going to basically explain some important notes here. So this network is set up as a real-time image-to-image pipeline rather than a single offline generation process. The input image comes directly from TouchDesigner and represents the drawing generated through hand tracking. And you may know that here there are two text prompt nodes, and the positive prompt describes what you want the model to emphasize in the final output. And here, the negative text prompt is something that you want the model to avoid. And also, something that is very important in this network is this parameter called denoise. The denoise controls how much the input is allowed to deviate from input image. A higher denoise value results in more transformation and less similarity to the original paintings, and a lower value preserves more of the input structure. And finally, the generated image is decoded and sent back to our TouchDesigner network through a WebSocket connection. So after you've finished building this network, go ahead and click this button here. In File, click the Export API, and then we are going to use it later for connecting this network to the TouchDesigner network. So back in TouchDesigner, go ahead and import the API that we just downloaded. And also we are going to import this ComfyUI tags that we downloaded from GitHub. And then go ahead and connect these two nodes. And in here, go ahead and connect a node and nodes. And finally, a movie file out. And so something to know that in the ComfyUI node, we should always check that the status here is connected. We can click this button to refresh the status. And also, we are going to make the stream on. So here, we are basically finished the ComfyUI setup. And so for this drawing section, I'm actually not going to show the details that I built it, because actually I'm basically just following along another tutorial that I found on YouTube. So I think it is quite straightforward to follow along on that tutorial. So in here, I would just like to show how I connect these final images to the ComfyUI. And so here in workflow, we can see there's a load image. So go ahead and in this image, drag the over in here. So now that the over is a image that is constantly sending to our ComfyUI, so that ComfyUI would generate new images based on the image in the over top. So that's basically it. So now that we can go ahead and display this to top and go ahead and play around with it. Yeah, and in my network, I actually built 4 different brushes so that you can make the final images more colorful. You can definitely make your own brushes out of your own creativity. So go ahead and play around with it. So that's pretty much about this tutorial. I hope it might be helpful for you and it's easy for you to follow along. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below. And thank you for watching.